Hello everyone, Dan Swift here, founder and CEO at Numentum, and welcome to the Speaker Series, where we spotlight some of the most interesting minds in the world of revenue generation. At Numentum, we help forward-thinking B2B organizations create better buyer experiences and deliver new momentum to their revenue engine. On this episode of the Speaker Series, we speak with Ben Elms, Chief Revenue Officer at Expereo. We have a great conversation around the importance of putting customers at the heart and forefront of everything we do, assessing and evaluating the values of the team, and the importance of creating psychological safety in the workplace. Let's kick it off. For our listeners, please could you tell us a little bit about Expereo? So how does Expereo help organizations achieve their business objectives?
Dan, Expereo is a global managed network services organization headquartered in Europe, and we provide internet and connectivity services for multinational customers wherever they operate around the world. And we provide unique visibility, security, and control through our managed service platform, Expereo.one. And we've found that as companies are evolving, changing the way they work, there's less reliance on MPLS and private networks. And so the services we provide allow our customers to be more dynamic, more flexible, and more scalable in the way they roll out global networks.
Who are you spending your time with?
Great question, Dan. Look, I've been spending my time with three groups of people. Super important to me, our customers, our people across the globe, and our key stakeholders, the management team, the executive committee, and our investors. And Dan, let me share with you really what I've been doing with each of that group of people. For me, starting in a role as a Chief Revenue Officer in a company like Expereo, it's super important on day one that you really understand customer perception. And so for me, spending time going through our Net Promoter scores, understanding what detractors and those people who are passive about our organization really think. So making phone calls, introducing myself, really taking that direct customer feedback so you can separate what you've heard in the interview process for the reality, and it helps set the context of what you need to do to delight and surprise customers globally. Secondly, spending time with people. We're a people business. For me, understanding the capabilities, the talent, the passion our people have for serving customers, be they sitting in our European teams, be they in our Asian teams, be they in our American teams, in LATAM. Really getting to know our people, what makes them tick, why they're here, and how I can help them be the very best they can be in serving our customers. And finally, spending time with the management team, executive committee, people that founded the business, people that own the business, to really ensure that I'm aligned with the objectives and the strategy that they're trying to achieve as we accelerate our business's growth around the world. So pretty busy schedule, and it's been a really good opportunity to connect with those people around the world.
Fantastic. So we met in a previous life. So prior to joining Expereo, you were the CEO for Vodafone Global Enterprise, and that was the pinnacle of your 18-year career with Vodafone Business. So I know that you're ultimately responsible for, I think it was 1,200 multinational corporations and about 1,400 employees. So what were the two or three biggest learnings that you're bringing from that experience to Expereo?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. And look, 18 years, I started when I was incredibly young. Let's just be clear about that. What did I learn from that experience? Customer centricity. I mean, customers, and it sounds so trite to say it, but customers must be at the forefront of everything we do. The way we sell and the way we serve to global customers around the world, I think, is the only true point of differentiation. And so making sure that every single person in the organization understands their contribution to a customer and really understands how they fit in is super important to me. And I take that across every role I've had. Secondly, you win as a team. It's very often seen that, well, it's all about sales, the sales team. It's not at all. You can only surprise and delight a customer if every single part of the organization plays its part. It's teamwork. And I genuinely believe you win as a team. And how you coordinate and bring people together to make that happen for customers, how you orchestrate that, how you communicate that, how you make people feel empowered to do what they need to do for customers is super important. And finally, for me, you've got to lead and inspire with open and authentic communication. There's no point in trying to be someone you're not. People see through it. So people, I genuinely believe, want to be led, and they want to be led by people who are authentic and real in the good times and the challenging times and when things go wrong. So leading with that authenticity and level of approachability is really important to me. So those are the three things I've really taken from that last experience.
Much of what you achieved during your final role at Vodafone when we first met, and what you're setting out to achieve at Expereo, talk about challenging times, it's happening in the midst of a global pandemic. So when you look back at the last two and a half years or so, what have you learned about yourself, both personally and professionally?
Look, for me, we all reflect on the 2 years we've just lived through, and none of us could have ever imagined what we've been through. But the lessons and the learnings are phenomenal, and really have changed the way I think about roles going forward. For me, the value of human-to-human interaction in person is massively important. Whilst we connect like this, and we've all got really good at it, and we've seen people's lives in multicolor on video, and we've reduced the barriers of communication, you still miss that fourth dimension. You still miss some of the body language, some of the cues, some of the engagements. So for me, I found that really challenging, not being able to meet people face to face. And it highlighted for me the real importance on building and maintaining relationships in daily life, so that you've got that real personal engagement continually. Also, I think as we've gone through the pandemic, there was a pause at the beginning where everyone had to reconfigure what they did. But business didn't stop. We didn't stop. We adjusted. We got through it. We changed the way we were engaging with people, and we drove business forward. And I think we've as human beings, we've become incredibly smart at adapting and living through that experience. For me, in the organizations I work with, a hybrid working environment was the norm, so it wasn't too big a change. But some of the observations I would make is it was okay to start with, but as we went through the pandemic, looking out for individuals through video, through social media, to make sure they were okay, and the need for psychological safety became incredibly important. Because as pandemics came out of lockdown, into lockdown, I was managing a global team. We had different people in different stages. We had people in a shared apartment in London or a country house, very different. You had to make sure we had psychological safety measures in place to ensure people got through it together as a team. And that became incredibly important. Final point for me of getting through it was be authentic and communicate. I used to do daily or every other day video broadcasts to the entire business of what was on my mind. Very personal, walking the dog on the beach, to drive that authentic engagement of, hey, this is hard, it's difficult. I'm finding that on some days. On some days, great news to share, but make sure you reflect the pulse of what your employees, colleagues, and customers are going through in your communication. That was super important. The final observation was making sure you took time for yourself away from the screen, away from the phone, to go and unplug. And I mentioned walking the dog on the beach. For me, getting out on my bike, getting some fresh air, getting some time to reflect and think differently was also hugely important of being able to be my best at leading a big global team through that experience, and certainly a skill I take with me into Expereo.
Yeah, the psychological safety piece and looking out for people and checking in on people, that really resonates, because so many people at Vodafone and again Expereo validate directly to me that that's exactly what you did and continue to do. So you are a massive believer in investing in people, right? So what initiatives are you putting in place to empower members of the Expereo go-to-market team to make sure that they're set up for success in this current and probably ongoing hybrid working environment for the foreseeable future? What are you doing?
First of all, Dan, look, to lead in the world we're working in right now, you have to be able to create an environment where people feel and are skilled and equipped to be the very best they can be. And I often say, what I really hold dear is that the time people spend working in teams that I lead, they see their personal capability, their career capability, and the time we spend together enhancing in that overall. So look, as I came into Expereo, we spent time as a leadership team being very clear on what our mission and our values were. The company's been growing incredibly quickly, and you've got a different sense from different executives what we stood for. So we spent time, 2 days in a room. It was entertaining at times, challenging at times, really locking down on who are we, what do we stand for, and what are the values that we want as a team, and begin to communicate that across the organization. Because I hugely believe that from the most junior joiner to the most senior person with the longest tenure, everyone needs to know, what am I here for? What's my part in it? Where do I fit? How do I contribute? How do I drive value? That was really important. From a education and learning perspective, I've learned through my engagement with you and why we started the conversation. I wanted to make sure salespeople were equipped to work in a world that's becoming increasingly digital, where buyers are not making a buying decision by having a face-to-face conversation. They're doing a huge amount of research online. They're going a long way through that buying journey through many sources of digital media. And how do you equip a sales team that's suddenly gone through a pandemic and can't travel to see customers, which is where Empire Selling came in? Because to that point of enhancing careers and enhancing capabilities, sales teams that work for me need to be able to engage in the most relevant media, which is socially. They need to understand the shift and trends in technology around engagement, things like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, the work we've done with you about being confident in video, being able to engage differently. It drives a different conversation and gives a different level of confidence in the business. And so that combined with good, solid sales discipline, rolling out Medic so that everyone has a common account methodology, driving sales performance management, all of those things we put in place. But so we're driving performance, but we're also making sure people have new skills, new opportunities to learn, so that we can help maximize on what's a massive market opportunity for Expereo right now.
Yeah, and I love how you've done it as well, because tying it back to what you said previously, you've created this safe environment, this place where people, it's okay to fail, as long as you don't keep failing for the same reason, obviously. But then giving them these new skill sets, and we get them so far out of their comfort zones, but they're doing it in a safe environment. So kudos to you and the team.
Yeah, picking up on that, Dan. I was away last week, but I came back and I was super excited to see in a very short period of time one of our newest joiners in LATAM. So a long way away from the HQ in Amsterdam, closed their first deal as a result of Empire Selling.
There you go.
And this is not a sales pitch at all. I'm not been paid to say this.
Keep going, keep going.
But seeing that come through and seeing all of the kudos come in, we have a WhatsApp group, all the sales and CSM communities, really made me super proud. And the Pedro walked away with a huge amount of plaudits and applause from the organization. So it was awesome.
So let's switch gears a little bit. Now, I like to talk about culture, and specifically different cultures around the world. So as one of my guests, you've worked in North America, in Seattle and Vancouver, in Australasia, Singapore, Sydney, across South and East Africa, the UK, Northern Europe. So how is living in all of these different locations, not just popping in and visiting them for business, how has it changed the way that you look at global business?
look, for me, and you and I have had many fascinating talks on culture. I'm passionate about understanding and fascinated by understanding local cultures. But for me, the experience I've had, I've been very privileged to have that experience. The world's a very small place. Local culture is super important. And whilst we can drive global business and have grand ambitions, unless you can connect with the local culture, understand the nuances, understand the saids and the not saids, understand body language and how people behave and react, you really miss something. And so for me, whether it's being from the UK and working in North America, being from the UK working in Canada, two distinct differences just across a borderline. When you go to Asia, India, Australia, we may speak in some of those places the same language, but cultural norms are so different. And if you can find a way to understand and connect and engage in the local culture in a meaningful, authentic way, you drive a much greater diversity across teams. And if you begin to connect cultures and get the team in Asia, the team in China working with our European team and seeing the value of the power of that connection, unbelievable. I absolutely love seeing that happen time and time again, bringing different cultures together.
Now, you said, which resonates in an authentic way, and you are one of the most authentic leaders I've had the pleasure of working with. So I want to take you back in time, not too far, to your first leadership position. So tell me about that, and tell me a little bit about maybe how your leadership style has changed over the years.
It's funny, Dan, I've often asked this question, and I don't look at life in terms of leadership roles. I think that whenever you're involved with people, you have a responsibility to provide leadership. And that's been my story from a very young age. I think you always remember your first people manager position, but there's a very stark contrast between being a people manager and being a leader. And for me, one of the things that resonates most with me about feeling the responsibility of leadership very clearly was when I was put on the board of Vodafone Australia as the enterprise director. The market had gone through a significantly challenging time. We had network failure in the business, and the company, I didn't think we could provide a credible service to our enterprise customers without significant investment. So we decided as a board to pause the enterprise business, reinvest, and come back to market when we were ready. So for me, owning the engagement with our employees, with our customers, with our stakeholders, to manage that message, I still remember the speech I gave. I still remember as I went across every one of the regions of Australia and gave that speech and saw the impact on people, on customers to this day. And that was one of the things that really sticks with me as my kind of first real leadership position, owning that decision and delivering in such a way that it was the best possible outcome for all people involved.
So amazing. But how have you gotten to a point in your leadership career where that feels so natural? So how has your style changed over time?
I think when you start in a leadership role, feedback, other people's opinions, looking for a bit of, people telling you you're doing okay is really important. And you get to a point where you've done it so many times, you have to become comfortable in your own skin, comfortable with who you are. And I think the change for me has been that change from needing people to validate to actually now being very confident with who I am. I know myself. I know what I'm good at, and I'm really happy with what I'm good at. I also know what I'm not good at. I also know what irritates me. And I know what value I can bring to companies like a Vodafone, like an Expereo. I know what I can contribute. And I have a plan and a method and a way I do it. And I think knowing your strengths and weaknesses, knowing what you enjoy and don't enjoy, being confident in yourself is super important. And some of it comes with age. Some of it is down to age and maturity. You can't fast track it. But that level of confidence in who you are as a person, to me, is really, really important.
Yeah, and that resonates so much because I only recently figured that out for myself, just as an FYI for our listeners, where you can't be an expert in absolutely everything, and that's why you have a team, right? It's just nonsensical to think otherwise.
But you've got to give that team space to be themselves.
Yes,
you know, absolutely. You see so many teams where a leader brings a team together, then tries to do everything they're trying to do. And hey, we've all been there. We've all gone through that phase of I've got to manage every single detail. The moment you don't, and you're confident in yourself, and you let go and you let others do, so much more powerful.
Amen. Love it. So you are one of the most driven people I know. So what is driving you, Ben? Why do you get out of bed every morning with the energy and the enthusiasm and the focus that you have? Talk to me.
Look, if I go back in my career, I was working for a not-for-profit called the African Children's Choir. Check it out, africanchildrenschoir.com. We were looking after 6,500 orphans and refugees in Africa. And I was set a task by the CEO at the time, a guy called Ray Barnett. And it was impossible. We had to record a choir, make a CD, and have that CD brought from the US to a live performance on stage in Dublin in a case of a number of weeks. And I remember sitting, looking at this going, it's impossible. And this guy phoned me and he said, have you tried this, 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 and this? Then tell me it's not impossible. And it's one of those moments in my life where if you look, I learned the lesson. If you look at something differently and you don't just take, it can't be done, you can actually achieve anything you really want to within your capabilities, skill sets, in the environment you're working in. That was a really, really valuable lesson to me. So I get up every day going, you know what? I can make a difference. I can go and succeed with this team. We can win in the market. We can delight customers. And really, if you put your mind to it, you can achieve what you want to achieve. I also get hugely inspired by seeing the teams that I lead, the teams that I'm part of, achieve things that individual team members don't believe they could have possibly achieved. And when you see that happen, and when you lead good teams with bright people who believe they can achieve anything, you see it happen often. It's awesome. It's the best feeling. It's one of the best drugs, right? When you see people achieve things.
Oh my goodness,
they don't think they can achieve. And I think, look, finally, and I have to say this, and it's probably not PC to say this in this type of interview, I'm competitive. I want to win.
No, because it is.
I wake up every day going, right, how do we win? And not competitive to the point of destructive competition, but a healthy balance of let's go and win. And that's in work, that's often in debates, certainly when I'm on my bike, I drive my friends to absolute, infuriation, where we've got a surge on every single ride. But that ability to want to win, waking up with a desire to win, knowing you can achieve what you want to, being surrounded with awesome people and seeing them achieve great results, that to me is really what makes me tick.
I'm just thinking of you now. I've got this weird image of you in debate club at school, destroying anyone on the floor with you. But we won't go there.
I wish I had the confidence back then, Dan.
Well, with time and experience, right? But so massive job, huge amount of responsibility. How do you stay so balanced with everything that you've just described, everything that you're responsible for? How do you keep everything aligned in balance?
Look, I think balance is a big word. And I think anyone doing the types of role that we do, balance is a challenge every single time. And there are moments in your life, in your career, in your work, where you are more balanced than others. The important part is being cognizant and mindful of where you are on that balance continuum, the impact it's having on others around you, and knowing you cannot stay at a period of intense focus for long without having a detrimental effect to your own health, those around you. But there are periods of time you have to be super focused. In no way, shape, or form look at me as a reflection of someone who's balanced. I struggle with it every day. I have an awesome team around me. I always have a group of people who genuinely can tell me and give me real-time feedback on when we're pushing too hard and when I personally need to take a break. And there's colleagues I've worked with. There's also friends I ride bikes with in totally different spheres of life. I'll get a check in WhatsApp. If they've not seen me on my bike, if they if I've lost contact for a while,
That's nice,
I'll get a message. So surrounding yourself with a tight-knit group of friends and trusted colleagues who can give you that feedback is important. And I look at it too, I have to go and get my backside kicked from a personal trainer a couple of times a week to make sure physically, as well as mentally, I'm doing something to stay in shape, stay healthy. Because guess what? These jobs take a toll if you don't look after your health and well-being.
Amen. Before I ask you my final question, I do want to ask you one thing. So when it comes to this, and it's a huge topic, so there's probably a session in its own right, but what's your take on this continual, much talked about topic of sales and marketing alignment? And again, this could be a whole session in its own right, but a couple of things from your good self.
Look, from my perspective, what are you trying to achieve? You're trying to achieve delighting, surprising customers. You're trying to achieve loyalty from a customer base as an organization. Therefore, the tighter the alignment between sales and marketing, the better the messaging, the better the engagement, the better the customer experience, the better the entire flow and engagement works with customers. I think people like to have the debate. In my mind, there's never been a debate. Vodafone, my colleague Iris, who I think is featured on one of your shows, Iris and I were 100% aligned, and you interviewed both of us before we started the process. In Expereo, we've just appointed a new chief marketing officer, Rupert. He's part of my leadership team within the chief revenue office to ensure there is absolutely a one plan, one alignment, one engagement across sales, marketing, commercial management, and delivery. But I think that alignment is massively important because I don't want the internal debate. I want the time to be spent winning in the market. And so for me, I know people love to talk about it. It's not something I spend my time on. If everyone knows where they fit, what their role is, what they're doing, the alignment comes and you deliver a much better customer experience.
Yeah, but not everyone does know what their role is and where they fit and what they're doing. And you've made that happen. That doesn't happen at that many organizations from what, we've experienced. It's kudos to you. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. We've all got frustrations, Ben. What is a non-starter for you? What is one thing that just frustrates you about people, life, business? What is it?
How do I come to one? When people are unable to be precise and when people espouse opinions without experience. When you engage with people who have the knowledge in their head but don't have the physical scars of doing things, and they want to give you a different perspective. Now, there's knowledge to be gained from it, but I like to engage with people who have actually done it because I think that's where the real learning comes from.
Well, love it. Before we let you go, if you're open to it, I quite like to do a quick fire round at the end of these sessions. I'll ask you a series of questions if you're good. If the answer to them is interesting and I want to go deeper, I might push you a little bit for a bit more of an answer. But do you want to give it a whirl?
Let's go for it.
Cool. All right, here we go. First question. Who is your hero?
My hero, immediately, I have two, both of my grandmas. I mean, the lives, the way they've lived and what they've lived through. And the fact that my 97-year-old grandma still phones me and says, I'm 21 in my mind, my body just isn't. What are you doing today? How are you looking after people? I take massive inspiration. And if my life could mirror a small fraction of theirs, then I'd have achieved a huge deal.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So are you a morning lark or a night owl?
Absolutely a morning lark. And my team know it and try to get me to make decisions at the end of the day. We catch them on that quite quickly.
This could be controversial for your team, but favorite city in the world?
To be fair, I absolutely love Singapore. I adore Singapore. I think it's a vibrant mix of cultures from across Asia. I just love the place.
What about the country that you'd most like to visit?
For me, South America. I've never been there. Our LATAM team are unbelievably passionate and engaged, and they're just winning. And I'd love to go and spend time with them and explore and understand their local culture and how they work and the market there.
Nice, very cool. I want to know the answer to this one. How many cups of coffee a day, Ben?
You're asking me? Way too many to count.
Oh my goodness, yeah, about 20. All right, favorite manager ever?
It comes back to that guy, Ray Barnett. Absolute inspiration. A guy that woke up one day, watched CNN, saw a tragedy unfolding in Africa, and took it upon himself to go and do something, and did it. And what he taught me about you can do and you can change the world if you put your mind to it lives with me as a mantra for all my life. I remember the conversation where I was on I-5 in the truck when I talked to him, and he said, try this, try this, try this. And that, to me, unbelievable individual. Check him out.
Definitely will do. Your most used app on your phone?
Strava.
Yeah, I knew the answer would be that one.
Which is a cycling app for those of your audience who don't know.
Yeah, for everyone, Ben is a huge cycler. Final question for you. Final question. What would you tell your younger self?
Dream big. Dream big. Life is so short. Dream big. Engage with the right people. Don't let people tell you can't do something, and go and make it happen. Have a shot. The biggest regret is if you don't try that thing that you really want to go and do. So for me, and my message to my own 4 daughters is dream big, and go and seize the opportunity that you can go and make happen.
Oh, amazing. Ben, thank you. Thanks for being on. I appreciate it, my friend.